So is Sonia your partner?
Yeah, wait a second.
I didn't hear that.
Can you speak? Okay. Robbins. Ah, my name is wrong. Okay. Thanks.
Guys,
Hey, Tyler.
David.
It's Tyler.
I have a question because for you, Vince, even I'm not a specialist of the feather, but I'm just curious because you see in the when we guide people or when we speak to people, what 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 we point to, or okay, we'll start differently because otherwise I think I'm not right. I not succeed in making my question. In the feather model, they make a distinction between the 1 and the 8, right?
Yeah.
But what is the difference really? Because I see that often people are probably already seeing that there is not this entity is a thought, and that's switching almost immediately to the 8.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
So
I'm
so
I'm
that
no
so
expert on the fetters, believe me, and I don't think there are any experts. I think those who think they're experts are not. But regardless, the way I understand it, and that's all I can tell you, is that the initial shift, and I probably shouldn't even use that word, the initial recognition that that self is an illusion is feta one. Once that's seen through, there can still be remnants of identification with a self, even though it's seen to be not actual. That the self is seen to be not actual. So the way I understand it is the eighth feta is a much more subtle sensation, just a sensation of I exist, I am. So it's not really referring to a self per se, but it's referring to just a remnant of identification.
yeah, exactly. But this is
It's a
okay.
trick, isn't
I know.
it?
Maybe it's not the place to talk about that, but I just bring it up um,
So I personally
because
think that a lot of what
when
Christiana's talking about not breaking the first feta, actually does belong in the eighth feta, not in the first feta. But I mean,
that's
the feta
that's
model is,
that's my
yeah,
I mean that's my suspicion, but I bring it up only because in the feather model, and a lot of people here probably are known this model, and maybe other guides also guide with this model. They will not really talk about sensation and perception. They will not try to point the illusion of the physicality and the distance in the perceptual fields.
yeah,
But from my perspective and guidance, it's very useful. It's very useful if you point and you can find that it's not really in your perceptual field and in your sensing field. There is not really boundaries, and if you can see this, it already opened up a lot
yeah,
to
yeah, I agree.
recognize that there is no physical entity. That's why I'm speaking about that. Just for this point, that from the perspective of the model, you don't talk about that later. But from a perspective, if you don't speak about that, you are missing a lot.
Yeah, I agree. So
I,
one of
I don't know. I don't know what you think, Tyler and Vince, about that. I don't
Well, I think the federal model is pretty shit in general.
know.
I,
Okay.
I'm inclined to agree. I think the
Okay.
moment we start talking about the Feder model or thinking about the Feder model or applying the Feder model, we're off down the wrong track. Right? Really, this
Okay.
should be about everyday
Interesting.
life. Nothing spiritual, nothing, no enlightenment bullshit, just about reducing suffering by seeing what is actual. And we should, and the problem is, of course, we've got no language that puts it into everyday life. We've got to use the metaphor of this spiritual stuff in order to even know what we're talking about. And that's part of the problem. So the moment somebody grasps hold of the fetters, they're going the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, when you ask like what's the difference between Feder 1 and Feder 8, it's like you can throw back the question, what's the difference between Feder 1 and Feder 2 and Feder 3? It's like where do you draw the boundary and why do you draw the boundary? Does it, yeah, I don't think it has any, I don't think there's any use in focusing on one specific thing when other things are coming up that can be pointed out. I don't think the rigidity is
Yeah.
useful.
I think a good metaphor would be I've got a piece of wood and I need to cut it at 1 meter long, but I can't get past measuring it. All I can do is play with that tape measure for days and days and days, and I never get to the point of picking up the saw to cut it because I'm so concerned about whether I've got the measurement right. That's what the Feder model is. That's what I see it as anyway.
Interesting.
And I feel the way I'm talking is I'm feeling somewhat aggressive about this. I I'm really up. Yeah, I was going to say I'm really upset, and I wanted to withdraw that, but I am. I'm upset about the bloody the rock that's been thrown in the pond at Liberation Unleashed, and we're just going to lose guides over this bullshit, and that's what it is. It's bullshit, in my opinion.
Okay.
There you go. So that's Feder One stuff, eh? Yeah.
I think the word spirituality, it's in connection with with the fact that some people believe that there is that there's a physicality, like there is a physical world, it's physical object with people there. So in answer to that, there is kind of this, there is a spiritual path which has nothing to do with this kind of understanding. It's something else. But when you use this word, it's true that people say, okay, so this I can just leave this around, I can just dissociate myself from all of this, and I will reach some other physical place, but it's spiritual physical place somehow. And this is
Joke, isn't it? Yeah,
the
yeah.
another boundary that is drawn in the middle of nothing.
It all comes down to these artificial separations, you know. In conventional life, you have rich versus poor, and then, you know, maybe someone gets into spirituality, then it's I'm a spiritual person versus a materialistic person. And then you get into this stuff, and then you're like, I'm a Buddhist, not a Hindu, or it's non-dual versus it's dual, or it's first fetter versus it's fourth fetter, and it's just you can make two out of anything, but there aren't actually.
Mm. So what do you think, Fiona, when you hear all this shit going on?
Oh, I missed the question from David, but I think Tyler's response very, very authentic. Because I started doing like following the curriculum, and I've abandoned it since I sort of joined this group. But no, like I have no opinion about it. I just thought, I'm just going to get lost in it. I'm going to make a thing out of it, which is what I always do. I thought, yeah, so intuitively I kind of just dropped it.
Yeah. Yeah, we really have to stay in touch with our daily experience. That's where the juice is. That's where the meat is. That's where however you want to put it. It's in our everyday daily experience.
Yeah, I could see it was a distraction
Mm.
for me, and I thought, okay, this is not the right thing right now.
I think Penilla's approach is quite good, but at a practical level, I think she just overloads people with too much information. No, I shouldn't say it like that, but there is too much information there for people to kind of relate to at any one time. Take one of her videos and it really needs to be broken up into about 10 videos so that people get a chance to work through one aspect before they get to the next one. That's just my feeling. But I've got to say that's good stuff. But I really rebel against this strict linear structure that seems to be what some people advocate. Hmm.
I'm for an exploration that is minimal. I don't know how to name it, minimalist or reductionist. It's the sense that you take one aspect of your direct experience, meaning a story, my life, I'm a father, apparently take I'm a father, okay? So you take one thought, one story, this guy, I'm a father, of course I'm a father. Then you say, okay, wait a minute, I am a father, it's a belief. Okay. And a belief is a thought. It's kind of it has a thought experience. So you kind of shift gear lower and lower and lower, and now it's okay. So it's not really a thought. It's a moving thought because my father is connected to an infinity of other things. So it's more like an activity of thinking, and then you go deeper and deeper and deeper until you cannot find boundary again, and you just do this constantly with everything. If it's a sensation, you do the same. If a perception, you do the same. And I think it's more useful that way than to make like a map and try to to follow a track. I think it's more to say, no, no, the track is this movement of breaking down what is actually really present in the moment. If it's fear, you do the same. How do you know it is fear? And you just breaking down. So it's very minimalist. It's very clean.
I also think that the the suggestion about what could be looked at comes from the body or comes from experience. So rather than take a map and say, well, we need to look at this role and that aspect and this and this and this and impose it on us, if we just go through daily life and something pops up, then that's there to look at. And so the for everybody it's going to be different. Somebody might go, well, I need to look at this father thing, whereas somebody else might say, well, I need to look at this child thing, or I need to look at this whatever, whatever experience suggests is really the place to look.
And exactly, and the everyday life it's contained in almost 3 dimension or three different categories that are not really categories, but it's like perception, sensation, and thinking. It's kind of, if I say feel a sensation, you will kind of go somewhere. You have the taste of what a sensation is. If I go to your visual field, I will go there. It's another taste. And think it's another taste. So if we break down the everyday experience in that way, it can be already be huge. Like in everyday life, when I go buy the bread, I can say always, all right, I'm in contact not with a street, but with a visual field, with sensation, with thinking. And this is the way that we can bring this exploration in our literally everyday life. Oh yeah, right. My experience is made kind of those three things moving around somehow.
Yeah.
Does it make sense to you, Fiona and Leonard and Jermaine, what we are speaking about this, or what I'm speaking?
So what we're doing so far is we're talking about things, which probably does touch our actual experience, but we're focusing on the philosophical almost rather than the actual. So if we say, well, has anybody got an experience that they'd like to discuss, to bring up, so that we move from the philosophical to the actual? Maybe something that's been stimulated by this conversation. I could probably bring up some stuff about that, or something else that's happened in the last few days. Yeah.
I was just reminded of the moment when I quit smoking, and I applied a method which was like, you have to observe all the triggers, like all the situations in which you would usually smoke a cigarette, and then note it down and then find some other way to, for example, relax or, yeah. And then I tracked like kind of all these triggers and I quit smoking. But then I was in Argentina and the pandemic started. So that was kind of a new trigger that I had never known before. And then yeah, I smoked again. So I think if you have like this, I don't know, it reminds me a bit to the fetters, because maybe you think all the fetters have fallen, and then you have a different life situation, and there are other things that trigger you that haven't triggered you before. And then I think like if you stick to a method, thinking that that means that you don't have to be open to new situations anymore, or like I would say to have this overall curiosity and openness in every moment would help better than like to make a catalog of things which trigger you, and then you try to change this behavior. I mean, for me, like this, in the beginning, I was really curious about those fetter videos, but then also, I mean, on my spiritual journey before, like when I was seeking, I read so many books, and that was kind of perpetuating for me, like this searching mechanism. And yeah, also I think I used to have a tendency to, I don't know, stick to structures and think like I have to listen to this every day. And then actually it's really rather yeah, a way to divert from being curious to what is actual. So I also quit doing it.
So that was an interesting memory, Leonard. But what triggered that memory today, or when it happened?
Yeah, that I remembered that it didn't work. It was something like very systematic, and it can work in the first moment, but it doesn't mean that afterwards all the fetters have fallen and you will never have anything to do with those issues anymore. Like this, yeah, it was said before, like this idea of a linear development. I don't really believe in that.
Right. So the memory was triggered by a current belief that says I have to pay attention to what is actual rather than focus on the map.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, part of the whatever you want to call it, the issue is that we tend to so easily overlook the actual terrain in favor of the map. Now, the map is a way of not looking at the terrains, So, but even my the intensity of my response earlier has already faded to the point where I could easily forget that it ever happened. Right? But it was the fact that it was there was telling me something. I feel angry and uh, I feel a sense of loss. I feel some grief about this stuff that's going on at Liberation Unleashed. And so that's really an issue for me to look at. But I could easily forget about it in lieu of what else is going on now. Yeah. Mm. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
easy to get distracted, isn't it?
At some point, I mean, yeah, I had this feeling of, yeah, I started to listen to the videos again, and then it was just like uh, my mind wouldn't want to let this in. It was just like, oh no, it's like too much talking and too many words, and I don't know.
Mm.
But at the same time, I also observed like, okay, why do I have this reaction? Maybe, I don't know, do I want to feel like I don't need that, or I don't, there's no work to be done? I mean, I'm not talking about doing, but like,
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
I don't think that everything is resolved, like for me, but I don't, yeah, maybe it was just like healthy way of saying, yeah, it doesn't have to be forced. What you said before, like what happens every day will somehow deliver me the things where the juice is. So I don't really have to
Yeah,
force it,
that brings
focus.
up an interesting one for me, and that is that we can easily see how the idea of I am a certain distance along this path, or I have broken so many fetters, or anything like that, is totally ridiculous, and it is an escape from a diversion away from the present, but a subtle one that's equally, how can I put it, equally inappropriate. I almost said dangerous then, is to say, I'm not there yet. That's just as much bullshit as the other one, because it still implies that there is a there to get to. It still implies something about the future. It's still a diversion away from what is now. So when we stay in the now, there's no possible measurement involved. We can't do it. We can't apply a measurement because a measurement is always about past and future. It's always about progress. It's always about something other than now, than this. So we can kind of feel, well, we don't want to be arrogant and say, oh yeah, I'm a certain distance along that path, but it's just as arrogant to say I'm not. That's a trick, isn't it? I do that myself. I don't know where I'm up to. That makes me good, doesn't it?
So, Vince, could that anger be connected to a belief in some kind of essence at LU? because you've been with them a long time. Maybe there's an attachment to the way things used to be, and that maybe they should stay that way.
Yeah, it's very complex. That I don't feel any particular, and I say these words, and I don't know how accurate they are either. I don't feel any particular loyalty to LU, but I do have a certain affection for them. Ever since I found LU a couple of weeks after I had my shift, my initial shift, I've kind of disregarded them as their rules or their intentions or whatever. I never looked at any of the guiding uh, documents in Guide Central. I never looked at any of them. I just did my own thing, and I basically just used LU as a way of contacting people that wanted to be guided, and I used the forum as a way of guiding. But other than that, LU meant nothing to me. But the affection has got to do with the fact that there is such open-heartedness and willingness for people to give up their time and guide. And I recognize also that there's value for the person themselves who are doing the guiding. But for me, I discovered a lot of things going on in myself as a result of guiding others. So I see that as valuable. But I also see there's nowhere else that I know of. I mean, there's nowhere else that I know of where seekers can get actual guidance without the bullshit of having to pay for it, which is another story again. And I believe it's kind of wrong. But on the other hand, some people have got to make a living as well. So if that's all they're doing, then charging for it is fine. But that also means that a whole lot of people won't have access to it because they can't afford to pay for it. So it's a trick, but there is that affection that's there. And I see that's well, so the way I see it too is that when somebody goes through the gate at Liberation Unleashed, I don't really care if they've had a shift. If they can go through the gate, which means that they recognize enough at enough of a level that they are, let's put it this way, they are stream enterers. If we use a Buddhist term, they are on the path, right? And of course, it's a beginning of a path. It's not the end of anything. So consequently, the problem then I always saw was that LU then pretty much abandoned them, right? Although they got invited to Unleashed Facebook group, it was never that active, It was never, people didn't use it to keep working on themselves. And that's what the groups were born out of. That was me trying to provide something for those people who are through the gate to have somewhere where they could continue deepening. And then they evolved into people who weren't yet through the gate, and that was fine. I'm really happy for that. So it doesn't matter where anybody might consider them or themselves might consider them to be, that just having somewhere like these groups where we can be spontaneous and authentic and talk about this stuff and relate it to our own experience is incredibly valuable. So why am I up on that soapbox now? I'm justifying something, aren't I?
Yeah, I think this whole thing is connected to believing that people should have a place to get help for this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right. That almost that I got tears in the back of my eyes when you said that. Yeah, that's right. People should have a place. That's important because otherwise they're just lost out there in society with everybody telling them it's shit and don't do that. Yeah,
Maybe there's nothing wrong with them being lost out there.
of course, of course.
I mean, people didn't have a place for the past, you know, 20, 50,000 years of civilization.
Yeah.
It's just a bit more accessible now. And 99% of the population will still never access this accessible part of it now.
Cool. Yeah. But when you say that, and I own it for myself, if we say people should have a place where they can do this, and then I go, I want a place where I can do this, and then I imagine not having a place to do this, and it just breaks me up. What am I going to? I'm going to go and commit suicide if I haven't got a place where I can do this. That's just what it feels like. I'm not serious about that, of course, but just brings on the idea of such a depression that people have to bottle this stuff up and pretend all the time that they're something that they're not, be inauthentic, which is the way I see most of society. I mean, we can philosophize a bit about it, that they are authentic in their inauthenticity, but nevertheless, I just, my heart aches. My heart aches for people who know there's something wrong, but don't have a place to do anything about it, which of course sounds like fixing it, doesn't it? But yeah.
That's reasonable, but it's something.
Mm. Yeah, it's something big for me to look at the moment, eh? Yeah. So do I look at it when I get out of the group? Probably not. I go on with the rest of my life. It's so busy. I've got so much to do that I only look at this stuff in the group, I guess.
I think it's important to remember that the your actual experience, your day-to-day experience is exactly what you need. So if you are lost in this life and there is no one with who you can speak and you are this poor person and there is something more and you cannot find it, it's the desperation, maybe, and I would suggest it is, but it's exactly what you need. It's exactly the type of energy that is needed for you to grow, and not, and I'm speaking because in my experience was like this, is kind of loneliness. It's it supported me in trusting myself. In it is a motivation to go deeper and find tools and build tools. So I think it can be useful. It's really what is, like you said, it's your everyday life is exactly what you need. And it is
Yeah.
exactly what need to be to have
Yeah.
exploration. And at the same time, understand what you say about supporting, and that's why I'm here also. But it's not one or the other. For example, I have a kid, right? And for those who have kids and want to take care of them, because you can have kids and don't care at all about them. But if you take care of them and you want to be present, it requires a lot of energy, right? And a part of the mind is kind of constantly pushing into the trying to say, oh, this child is impeding me to live my life. This child is impeding me doing that. This child is taking me energy and money. This child, but it's a wrong approach. The fact is, the life that I have is exactly what I need, and the challenge I need is exactly what is needed in the moment.
Mm. Yeah, that does bring up an interesting thing, and that is that if this were no longer accessible to me, if the whole spiritual thing yeah, was not a part of my life right now, with having learned what I have learned up till now, life would still be really good for me. I would have nothing to complain about. I would go through life feeling pretty happy with everything, and I'd be quite happy to die whenever that turns up as well. So somehow this promises something. These groups and this kind of talking promises more. I don't know how to put it, but something that has a definite attraction for me.
But could it be that the event itself, like the pleasure I feel right now, being connected with you, can this be enough? Even if thought will always build narrative and stories. But I don't think there is a need to always try to give meaning and try to go deeper and deeper into everything. You know, there is pleasure in doing something, and you can do it. It's possible for you to do what the impulse of pleasure is pushing you. Well,
Yeah. This is like ice cream. I love it. I love it.
fine.
Makes me.
Exactly. Sometimes I think there is a time for deepening, asking question, and for other to just appreciation. Because at a human level, everything is questionable. Why do you breathe?
Yeah.
You need to breathe in. You're not a you know you but you know, I mean,
Certainly doesn't seem as simple as ice cream though, this stuff. You know, ice cream pleasure is definitely different from helping others and leaving an impact on them pleasure.
what did you say? The last sentence?
Ice cream pleasure is definitely different from helping others and leaving an impact on them pleasure.
Why? What way it's different?
The experience, well, not that anything is different, but if we're talking in this way, the experience of ice cream is much simpler. It doesn't require belief or thought. It doesn't require a narrative about what's happening. You don't even have to know you're eating ice cream to enjoy the taste of ice cream.
That's very interesting. Because
It is.
that's mean that if I am with someone, like right now, I'm all with all of you, do I need thought to enjoy the presence?
Well, I
It's an
think
interesting question.
the connection and presence already comes from narratives that we're sitting here together, talking and connecting. Because you can't find that in the visual field or the sounds. That's all, you know, you
But
derive.
I agree. I agree with this. At the same time, I feel the pleasure I feel it's in my experience is here. Just as the pleasure of tasting the ice cream is here with me.
Yes. The pleasure, the pleasantness, I think, is the same. But the pleasure is derived from a story and not a direct experience.
I mean, the pleasure of eating ice cream.
I mean the pleasure of connecting, of helping others. It's the same as, you're deriving pleasure about the situation because that's what's happening. It's the same as you win the lottery. You're happy because you've won the lottery, because of the story you've won the lottery, not because of anything actually going on, which doesn't invalidate anything. It's a slightly different flavor.
You said okay. So I think you what you was pointing is I will try to phrase it. Okay, and you tell me if I'm in the right direction. The pleasure of the ice cream, it's a pleasure that comes from a sensation, like a perceptual sensation of tasting, what I would say, tasting the tongue, right?
Yeah.
It's a pleasure that comes from direct experience of a perception. And you said that being in contact with others in a group and sharing or helping others come from the pleasure of being in contact with thinking, with a story in thinking, with contact with
Yeah.
thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And,
Fra-
and
Phrasing, framing, saying it that way, make me understand it.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that
a
was very
Make me
clear.
understand.
that's a brilliant thing too, because what it does is it confirms for me that thinking is just another sense organ. It's the sixth one maybe, but it's another sense organ because we respond to it just as we respond to every of the other sense organs when they get stimulated. So yes, I mean, I found interestingly in my actual experience, I found that the pleasure of eating ice cream is gone the moment the last spoonful happens and is swallowed. It's only there while it's actually in my mouth. In fact, afterwards, I can feel a bit guilty or a bit bad about the fact that I've eaten all that ice cream. But nevertheless, it's the pleasure is there while the experience, while those taste buds are stimulated. And this is a bit the same, that's this feeling, this good feeling I get from the contact and the intimacy that I experience in this group. That's not there when the group's finished and I go out and I water the garden. That's a different kind of experience then, but nevertheless. So this, like ice cream, is only there when it's actually happening. If I think about it, I can get that feeling back again. I guess, like if I think about eating ice cream, maybe I can salivate a little bit. I don't know. What do you think, Ramesh? You following the conversation?
I feel like experience has like multiple dimensions. It can has like a thought level or sensation level. It's like I don't know if there is hierarchy. experience. But it seems like sensations are more close, are more. I don't know.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I like when this is what David often does to me, what you've just done to me. You know, you say it's multi-dimensional, or there are many different aspects to it, and it's obvious. Of course, you're right. There is. You know, when we're talking about it in a really simplistic way here, but the things are much more complex than the way we can talk about them, for sure. So I wonder, see, the anticipation of eating ice cream, that's obviously, there's great pleasure in that. And that's obviously at a thought level. Well, at least the stimulation is at a thought level. The anticipation of a lot of pleasurable things is greater in the anticipation than it is in the actual experience.
And that's where
I
pain
feel
is
like
and suffering.
I feel like the experience of a child is like it has a conceptual dimension from our perspective, but it's not the experience of the child. We could say that child is experiencing a connection to his mother, but the child doesn't know that.
Mm. Mm.
But one thing that psychologists say is that the baby doesn't experience two bodies. For him, the mother and him are one thing. Even if he's kind of his body is seeming outside, he doesn't experience that his mother is out there. He still feel one for many months.
Well, so what about this one? This is one that's always intrigued me for a long time. Our dog is 9 years old now, or actually, yeah, 9.5 years old. And if we say, you want to go for a walk, she always runs in an anti-clockwise circle, gets very excited, jumps up and down, really, really obviously excited about, as a result of the word, do you want to go for a walk? And it's a different excitement when we're actually on the walk. She just loves chasing the ball and getting the ball and bringing it back so we can throw it again, and then she'll chase it again. And she'll do that until she's exhausted. But when we say, do you want to go for a walk? I have no way of knowing whether she's imagining me throwing that ball, whether she's imagining the walk, or whether she's even got any relationship to the actual walk. All I know is that she's behaving in an excited way. Is that anticipation? Does the dog have an image of going on the walk and or a memory of being excited? I have no idea. But it's really, really intriguing to see how she gets so excited when we say, do you want to go for a walk? Presumably it's pleasure, but I don't actually know. So does the
Well,
dog have stories?
if you want to break it down that deep and think about whether the dog is imagining the future where it's on the walk, or whether it's just a biological response, then you could ask questions like, how do you know the dog is aware, has its own consciousness? And then if you want to go that deep, you can always go further and ask, how do you know that other people are aware the same way you do and have the capability to imagine these stories Or are they just wired in such a way that they act a certain way that makes you think that that's what's happening in them, and then you can say things that messes up that mechanism? I think it just, you can go infinitely deep with this. And the answer is always, I don't know shit, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. But it's a really pleasurable shit to not know, isn't it?
But you see, now in IEI time, maybe all of the faces here are robots, right? So maybe I'm really talking with a machine, right? So trying to find out if you are real or you are a robot or you are a person, from our perspective, doesn't really matter. Because like Savins, to keep it real, to keep it really everyday life, it doesn't matter if you are a robot or not. What matters is it's how do I feel when you speak? Why do I react that way? Why it's important for me to say this or to say that? Why do I put expectation on people here to awake or to be free of something? And in that way, all of those questions kind of become philosophical, and what is really important is your experience as it is in the moment. And this unknowing, this what you say is not philosophical, because it helps us point that you don't have to care much about others. And if you do recognize that it's for yourself, there's nothing to do with other people. Nothing. Like I am polite with other people because I want to be polite. Doesn't matter if they are rude to me. I don't, it has nothing to do with me being polite. I do what I think of what the impulse is correct. And other people do whatever they want, and it's fine. If they exist. But it's irrelevant.
Mm. So have you experienced any suffering recently, Fiona?
Yeah, it's probably daily, just with the worry and anxiety.
Oh, you almost went to sleep when you were telling us that. It looked like you had a tired expression came over your face.
Yes, I am not sleeping very well.
Mm.
It's a little, yes, sleep deprived.
So tell us a bit about what's happening.
Much the same as last week. So there's really no progress in securing work. Yeah, so it's just sort of buying into the unhelpful thinking of what that might mean.
So if we were to say that securing work, as you put it, is outside of your control, right? That at best you can contribute some small influence by applying and by having a resume and that kind of stuff. But essentially it's so determined by all these other conditions, all circumstances of availability and all the rest of it. Cool. And then where I was heading was really in a wrong place, and that was that what bits do we have control over? but I'm not meaning control in a literal sense like that. What bits can we influence that might change our experience of this? So obviously being sleep deprived has got something to do with worrying about it. Or maybe I'm wrong there.
Yeah, it's probably more the anxiety. I think I fall asleep okay, but then I sort of wake up in the middle of the night. And I wouldn't say I'd necessarily start thinking about, no work, but there's something there. Um, so yeah, the things, and I get glimpses of like I can't control apart from participating in the application.
Yeah, that stuff. Yeah.
I get a glimpse of like this is not in like I can't control it.
And
Can't control on people's decisions and
yeah. So how do you
whatever they
respond to that when that turns up? That
when I get a glimpse of I'm not in control or
yeah. When you see that, does that make you more anxious, or do you relax as a result of seeing that?
yeah, there's a window of kind of relief and relaxation. And then I might sort of go off and kind of just be productive with something that, needs to get done.
But in the middle of the night, you'll get out of bed and do that, will you?
Oh no, not the middle of the night. So I'm not necessarily thinking about having no control in the middle of the night. It's probably during the day where
Right.
you
So,
know,
so I'm interested in what wakes you up in the middle of the night, because that's pretty important as far as your health is concerned. To get enough sleep is really valuable, I imagine. I mean, obviously we all have different requirements, and sometimes our own requirements vary a lot. Sometimes, I mean, I get up at 4:30 a.m. 2 days a week for these groups. And some days I'm just absolutely got to go back and have a sleep in the middle of the day. And other days I'm in bed at midnight and I realize that I haven't had a sleep and I've been okay. So it's like, wow, today I didn't need that sleep and last time I did. It's crazy the way that works. But so yeah, well, of course we've all got our own requirements and they vary and so on. But if you're feeling sleep deprived, something's going on, isn't it? Right? You need more than you're getting, or you need better quality of the bits that you are getting, or something. And if something wakes you up, that suggests something to me as well, that there's some kind of subconscious anxiety roaming around.
yeah, it's definitely not conscious. I don't know necessarily what it is.
So when you wake up in the middle of the night, is there a trend? Can you say what particular stories turn up, or are they varied or different every time?
There's no story that I can latch onto. It's just like, oh, I've woken up again.
Right, okay, yeah. Maybe, and it's only a thought and a suggestion that maybe, particularly, see, I mostly have trouble remembering my dreams because I don't pay that much attention to them when I first wake up, so therefore they don't kind of get put into short-term memory and they never get put into long-term memory. So, we can have a dream and as soon as we wake up, if we think about it, we can remember it. But if we don't think about it, it's gone within a few minutes. We don't even know about it. So I wonder if it's a productive suggestion for you to, if you do wake up in the middle of the night, have a pen and paper handy and write down a few key words about what immediately comes to mind when you wake up, and then look at them in the morning to see if it brings back a memory of something. And maybe you'll find a trend by doing that. Anyway, it's just a thought and a suggestion that you could consider. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'll take it on. I don't remember my dreams. Like if I dream, I don't remember them.
Yeah, probably much the same. Yeah.
Do you find it hard to go back to sleep?
Yeah, sometimes. And I've been a restless sleeper for quite some time, so it's almost kind of my norm. It's become my normal.
Does it feel like more mental or more physical, like the restlessness?
Could be a bit of both, but probably more mental, unless I am uncomfortable in bed.
How do you help yourself to go to sleep?
How do I help myself go to sleep?
Yeah.
I don't think I necessarily have any ritual. Just kind of get into
Because
bed.
I have similar issue, like waking up in the middle of the night and it's hard for me to go back to sleep. So I've been trying yoga nidra and it's helpful.
Oh yeah, I've done
But
that before.
yeah, it's just relaxing the body is very helpful to go back to sleep.
So can you identify some aspect of your experience related to being unemployed that stimulates agitation or depression or whatever? Well, I forget the actual words, but you know what I mean. A downer of any kind.
Can you ask that question again?
Can you identify any stimulant of a downer related to being out of work or related to, so even out of work is not the right way to put it, to relating to being minus whatever you got out of work? Are there stories? Are there times of the day? Are there buses going past? What anything that might stimulate a memory of, and therefore a story, and then a downer? Or do they seem to come randomly?
Yeah, I think they're randomly, and it's more around like not so much work related. It's the bills that come in,
Right. Yep. Yeah,
and
gotcha.
so it is the absence of a regular payday
Yep. And
that
watching
sort of triggers it.
go down.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Just to understand the situation, because I don't know how it works in Australia, but when you lost your job, you have social security, and then is there a time limit, or will you receive money from them until you find a new job, or what is it like?
So in Australia, we do have social security. We have to apply for it. And it's quite a long process
And a
because you need to be
yeah,
assessed and
you have to keep applying for jobs, etc., as well, and you have to prove to them that you've applied for jobs and so on. So, are you involved in that process?
no, I haven't sort of kicked off that process. But I've typically not been granted.
Because you've got too much savings, or
Yep.
yeah. Yeah, they want you to be totally broke before you go on that.
Yeah, they want people to be a problem further down the track for the community.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, and it doesn't matter which government's in, they all do the same thing.
It's the same in Germany.
Yeah. They'd rather give a millionaire a tax break than give a penny to the unemployed. Yeah. But anyway, another story that, yeah. And there's another thing, of course, and that is that when you do apply for unemployment, it's like you resign yourself to the fact of not ever getting a job. Not many people, once they get unemployed, become employed again, as much as they might want you to. Yeah, although it depends, of course. But we have in Australia generationally unemployed people, people who are children of unemployed parents who become unemployed. Yeah. Not that I imagine you're in that category at all, Fiona, but yeah. Mm. So have you exhausted places to apply for jobs?
Well, I'm not choosy, so the local supermarket doesn't want me. And I totally get that because why would they train me if I'm just going to get another job?
Mm, mm.
I totally appreciate that.
Yep, yep. And they might use the term that you're overqualified for their work or something like that. But that's
Yeah.
just another way of saying, yeah, why would we invest in you when you're going to take off the moment you can?
Yeah. And if I'm honest, like my resume, I have a very high trajectory.
Mm.
Um, and
Yeah,
so well, I could dumb it down, but I mean,
yeah.
how much do I dumb it down?
Oh, well, maybe you actually need a really dumb resume for the local supermarket and then
Maybe.
just keep the high trajectory for the jobs that you would really like to go to. Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, resumes are a bit about being fake anyway, aren't they?
Oh, they're just the most fakest pieces of paper.
Exactly. But yeah,
LinkedIn makes me want to vomit.
yeah, 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 I get that. Mm. So the gold in this for us, the value of this is the connection between your sense of unworthiness and and how these things stimulate that. Um, your sense of being a victim, your sense of hopelessness, your sense of whatever words you want to come up with that describe what you feel is definitely being stimulated by this situation, isn't it?
Mm.
So that is a gift that once you get a job will no longer be available to you to look at. So this is a bit exciting in a way, as much as it's it's shit in another way. So just imagine that you get a response and you've got a job and it's a high-powered job and exactly what you like, and you do really well at it and you feel really good and you can leave all this stuff behind. You won't get a chance to look at this stuff again unless something happens, and it could do. There are a lot of negatives with success. People who get success often get totally stressed out with staying successful, and the effort and concentration involved in being successful can be immense. It can break people physically. So one would hope that when you do become successful, you've worked out this other stuff and you can be successful in a relaxed way and not have that kind of stuff going on. So you said once, or this is just stuff that comes to my mind, you said once something along the lines that you recognize that even when you were you were employed and doing well at it, that was just a way of not acknowledging something that you had felt pretty much all your life, that sense of not enough, not good enough.
Yeah, I think recently it's been more in the foreground. It's hard not to acknowledge it. It sort of plays out.
So what have you discovered about that, in that, other than the fact that it exists, but what have you discovered about it that you might call a shitty word, but progress or some change? Has there been any change in it? No, I get that straight away. A frown and the shaking of the head. No, so seems to be exactly as it always was, that stuff.
Yeah, it's almost like there's exhaustion in sort of being self-reflective about it and not sort of, any shift out of,
Right.
no insight.
So would you say that there's a story hanging off there somewhere, that there's no point, that it's not going to shift, that it's always going to be there?
Yeah, that sort of comes up and hangs around a bit.
So engage in a fantasy for me that what would it take? Say the first thing that comes to mind. Don't think too much about it. What would it take for that to have the legs cut out from underneath it, for it to no longer be, for it no longer to exist? Not that it's been fixed, but that the reason why it's there is gone. What would it take for that to happen?
I don't know.
So does that, I don't know, or does that also include, it's not knowable? Does that include that it can't happen?
All of the above.
Right. So one of the questions that Pernilla would ask you at this point that I kind of don't quite get myself, but maybe, I recognize that there's probably some value in it, but anyway, but the interesting one is, if it never leaves you, can you live in a body? Now, focus on the physical. Can you live in the physical body where this continues for the rest of your life? It'll be there forever until the day you die. Can you live in that body?
Yes and no.
Good answer.
Like it's really uncomfortable.
But you could tolerate it if you had to.
I could tolerate it until I couldn't, and then I'd distract myself.
Mm. And you would be successful at that distraction?
To a point.
Mm. That would be getting a promotion, I suppose, that distraction.
Oh no, I'm meaning like just basic, just going and doing something like cleaning the house or something. I have less and less interest in being promoted or having a career. Um, so that part of, I guess, that aspect of my life has dissolved. So yeah, career doesn't look as important to me.
So
Sorry. Can I ask?
go on, Charlotte.
Um, have you tried to like really feel it? I love what Vince is saying there about like, can I be in the body with this as and I kind it's a kind of a way of acknowledging the sensation there. Um, but what would happen if you really, really felt it? Like if there was no distraction or diversion and just really letting that sensation in and letting it do what it needs to do in the body.
Uh, yeah, I do have a practice around sensing and feeling where any sensation that I have in my body, I'll just be with it. And even if it sort of travels or there's a different sensation in the body, I'll sort of mention that out loud until it sort of shifts again, changes location. Um, yeah.
It's like a tracking of it, like it tends to move around and you track it and see where it
Mm.
lands, see where it goes. And is there any getting underneath that? Or do you just track what's there, or do you
It's just tracking, and I'm not
Mhm.
sure what sort of what you mean by getting underneath it. My mind just wants to make something of that and tell me that I'm not getting underneath it.
I'm just curious about what that, I've been doing these things only in the last month or so and just like really playing with that idea that we can like really feel it in a way that it could even dissolve, this anxiety or fear that we've had maybe forever can in a way be really um we can be with it in such a different way that it actually resolves, because we've been so used to pushing it down and it shouldn't be there and the distracting and the fighting of it, and the conflict with it, that
Mm.
we can like actually really change the way that it is in the body and the way that we're being with it in the body. But often like the kind of the top the word is, but like the first kind of level of sensation can be something like, anxiety or fear, but we can question down, we can like keep questioning underneath it, kind of in the sense of like, okay, so I guess with you, Fiona, like I don't have this job and that's really, the bills are coming in and that makes me feel really anxious. And then we can keep questioning with that around like, so what would that mean? What would it mean if the worst case scenario happened and you lost the house and or all your electricity got cut off or whatever happened, and what would that be like and what would that mean, and keep kind of inquiring underneath, the initial reaction, and keep feeling that and keep because for me anyway, it sort of deepens. It actually hasn't really got anything to do with that I haven't got a job or the bills are not getting paid. It's something much deeper and much bigger about being completely um isolated, like completely abandoned, completely left out on the streets. And I used to always get like this little picture of me as a little Indian woman sat on the streets in India with dust and people stepping over me and flies around me and just being like completely abandoned, underneath these things. And just following that inquiry, like, okay, where would it actually go? Like if this job never arrives, like I never pull it back from here, I never work again. What does that feel like? With the idea to like really feel it. Really, really, really feel it. Beyond tracking it. Because tracking it is one thing to see where it kind of goes, but feeling it, like really getting in it and sweating it out.
How
I've
do you
been
feel now?
playing with that and sorry?
I want to ask how Fiona feel now.
I'm stressed.
Do you feel like some kind of connection, or do you feel like you're listening from behind the glass?
Connection to what, myself?
Being here with us.
No, like I feel very separate.
How does it feel?
Isolating.
That doesn't tell me how
What do you think? What do you feel we're not getting or not feeling what you're feeling?
I'm not sure how to answer that question.
What do you think we're not getting when you speak to us?
Connection.
you keep saying these words like connection and isolating that I can't actually relate to as a feeling. What is it you're feeling? When you said you feel isolated from the group, my heart just went, oh, I just, I wanted to rush in and give you a hug. I wanted to tell you that there is connection, but that's from my side. But what's going on for you that's not there? That's what I'm interested in. And it's not a word like isolation or connection. It's something about a feeling.
Yeah, it's sadness. It's grief.
And it's sadness and grief about what?
I don't know, just not feeling connected.
So have you got a memory? Do you know what feeling connected feels like? Have you ever felt connected?
Yeah, I didn't have this pain in my chest.
Hmm. So when you say that you do have a practice of following that pain, getting closer to it, are you thinking about it or are you feeling it?
Just feeling it. So no interpretation, just feeling it.
Yeah, yeah. And as you say, it shifts and then you follow where it shifts to. So what happens then? Are you doing it now as we speak about it?
I'm present to the pain, like the tightness in my chest,
Mm.
the sensation in my chest.
And that sensation, is that about not feeling connected? Is that a feeling of something missing?
I don't know. It's not giving me anything.
Yeah, okay. So can you describe it for me as best you can? Right? Is it a really small focused area? Is it a big area? Is it an emptiness? Is it a tightness? What are the labels you would come up with to describe it at this level?
It's in the center of my chest, so it's quite condensed and it's tight. Um, Almost like there's sort of pressure being placed on the outside of my chest.
Pushing it inwards
Yeah.
with your back. Mm. And it feels like a compression when you say tight. It's being squeezed inwards.
Yeah.
Does it have is it hot?
No, it doesn't have any of those kind of the temp like qualities of hot or cold.
No colors?
No colors.
And if it moves, I'm imagining that it's not moving a large distance. It's just moving small increments somewhere. Is that accurate?
No, so sometimes it'll like,
No, now, not sometimes, now. What's
well,
happened?
it's still in my chest. It has not moved.
Not moved at all. Right. Okay. Yeah. If it were to intensify, what's the first thing that comes to mind that would happen if it were to get really intense,
I would probably go to the hospital and get myself checked.
right? Because
Uh,
you would be concerned about
I'd be concerned I'm having a heart attack.
heart attack, right, right, yeah. Even though it's not actually over your heart, it's in the center.
Well, it's in the center of my chest where my heart is.
Oh, okay, so it's weird, but your heart's a little bit left of the center normally. No, I mean, everybody's different again, but I would expect it to be not where your sternum is, but you know, like 2 inches to the left of there for your heart. But of course, we can have sensations anywhere that come from the heart. Yeah, okay. So would you describe that? Let's imagine that it was so intense that it was affecting the heart. Would you call that, what would you say? We say heart attack, but that's a pretty generic kind of thing. Would you say it's your heart is going to stop, or would you say it's going to break, or would you say it's going to burst, or how would you describe it?
I think the description of burst is quite apt. That's
So just the sheer intensity of the pressure
mm,
create almost an explosion. Yeah. So if we were to imagine the reverse happening, let's say we waved a magic wand or gave you a magic pill or something, and what it did was it turned around this process in exactly the opposite direction, and instead of being compressed in, it was starting to expand out, or whatever comes to mind in that way. What would the end result be? What would happen to Fiona's heart? Not talk metaphorically or literally, it doesn't matter. What would happen to Fiona if this just started to come out and expand and go the extreme, burst out of the body? Or you look almost bored about that idea.
I don't have anything positive to say about that when I kind of imagine it.
Right, you can't imagine it. That's a big one. So it's like it's not possible that we can turn this around and the opposite can occur. Is there a history of heart attack in your family?
No.
Good. Yeah.
Well, not that I know of. I mean,
Of course, we don't know and never know, but yeah, but not in your parents or siblings or anything like that. No.
yeah, not parents or my siblings, but beyond that, it's yeah, to understand what my grandfather and grandmother kind of suffered
Yeah,
with.
of course, yeah. Yeah. I mean, if it did, they'd probably just call it natural causes, and they wouldn't have.
Well, I kind of never shared that stuff.
Okay. Yeah, we didn't talk about it once, did we? That's right. Yeah. Okay. So I feel sadness at that. You can't imagine that can be turned around. What do you feel about that? Is there a reaction to that seeming inevitability that it will continue in the direction that it's going in?
Despair.
Despair, yeah. Oh, yeah.
How does it make you feel if I told you I know exactly how you feel?
That would make me sad.
You wouldn't inflict this on somebody else, eh? No.
What if I told you I don't mind?
It would still make me sad.
Do you think that maybe if despair became big, that maybe beyond that, but in that same direction, a little bit beyond despair, there is, or included in despair, is resignation, that would bring some relief? Is there any possibility of relief from this?
Possibly with resignation.
So could you imagine that down the path towards resignation, there is a fork in the road, and one down to the right is where resignation and victimhood and that is there, but one down to the left, but still down the same hill in the same direction. But on the left, there is one that is acceptance. That has a lot more joyfulness about it, but doesn't take you to victimhood and giving up. It just takes you to a surrender to what is there, but still with enough energy, which the other one has no energy on. This one has enough energy for you to be curious about possibilities. Could you imagine that?
Yeah.
Are you up to are you up to that fork yet? Is it in front of you still, or is it already behind you? Are you already down one or the other? Well, you're not down the acceptance one, but are you already down the other one past the fork, or is it still in front of you?
It's still in front of me.
Great, great. So can you imagine, and I'm only wanting to excite a fantasy here. Can you imagine a willing, welcoming surrender to the situation where the acceptance is almost joyful in that it's recognized that there is discovery to be had about this. Can you imagine that one?
That seems not very authentic for me to imagine. It's challenging for me to imagine that.
Yeah, yeah. But the other one, the despair to resignation and victimhood, that's much more realistic, eh?
Yeah.
Mm. So on this imaginary path where we haven't yet come to that fork, is there something we need to pick up that will make the left-hand one more realistic? Is there something we need to discover? What comes to mind as something that might make it more possible than it felt a moment ago?
Nothing's coming to mind. It just feels like the left path is like, okay, I have to get my game face on. It's going to take a whole lot of effort.
Mm-hmm. And you don't have the energy for that at the moment, that effort? No. Okay.
So
What?
maybe energy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What comes to mind for me now is something I'd like to do for you is see if we can tap into some magic, something that I know exists from my experience, both with myself and with others. Would you be up for that? Okay. So what this does is it takes me back to, oh, I don't know how many years ago, I forget, doesn't matter, when I was a practicing hypnotherapist, and I've seen so much magic come out of that situation that what I want you to do is we'll have a meditation. Okay. So just take a nice deep breath and watch it come out of your mouth, and then close your mouth and watch the breath coming in and out of your nostril. Feel the breath coming in your nostril and out of your nostril. Just let your eyes do whatever they want to do. And so as the breath comes into your nostril, recognize that it's cooler than the sensation when your breath comes back out of your nostril. As it's coming out of your nostril, it's warmer. As it goes in, it's cooler. In and out. Just watching the breath go in and out. And put your attention on your shoulders and recognize if you're holding them there, and just imagine letting them drop. Just let your shoulders drop. Become relaxed. Feeling that. Now go back to watching the breath in and out of your nostrils. Now noticing the length of the breath coming in and out. And I want you to make the out breath longer than the in breath. Breathe out for longer than you breathe in. This is what happens when we go to sleep. Our out breath becomes longer than our in breath. Feel your body starting to relax, becoming softer. And as you follow the breath out, I want you to imagine that path again. And this time, let's put some characteristics to that path. It's a grass path. It's in nature. It's grass and there's some bush on either side of the path. Not very thick, just some trees and some shrubs and some grass. And you're wandering casually, very leisurely, on a slight downhill slope down that path. And as you go down that path, you're starting to appreciate the prettiness, the beauty of what's around you. The trees, the shrubs, the sky, the grass, the feeling under your feet. And suddenly you realize that you're barefooted. You have no shoes on, and you can feel the grass. You can feel the softness, even thinking it must have rained recently because the ground is soft and the grass is soft and pliable and cool under your feet. As you just walk and stop and walk and stop. Walking just happens. You're not doing it. You're just seeing it happening. And you're stopping as you look at a shrub. You see a flower. You see the grass. And you even realize that the grass that's brown has a beauty. It's almost golden rather than anything. You're just seeing the wonderfulness of what nature is providing for you as you go down this path. Gently walking, stopping, gliding down the path. Seeing what you see, hearing what you hear. Mostly birds, some breeze, feeling the breeze, feeling it on your face, gently touching you. Just enjoying what you're experiencing as you go down this path. And ahead there's a curve in the path. It curves around out of sight. It goes around to the left. And you can't see what's around the corner, but there's a feeling in you that there is something around the corner. That something very nice, very good, very pleasurable something is going to be discovered. You don't know what it is. You're not even interested in what it might be, but you really are enjoying that sensation in you where that impending discovery and your curiosity about that is growing bigger and bigger in you as you go down. And then you get, again, and your attention goes to the beauty of what's around you. And the sky is just so wonderful. The colours are great. There's clouds in the sky, soft, voluminous clouds just moving across the sky. And you're really, really enjoying that. Really enjoying that. As you go down and down and down and down that path. And the curiosity about what you might discover is soft and relaxed, has no need to be satisfied. It's just curiosity, beautiful curiosity about what's not been seen, curiosity about what might appear, curiosity, but the sense of discovery is really, really strong. There's something that's going to change for you, the possibility that when you come to that fork, you'll take the left hand down, that curious discovery, that acceptance and surrender to whatever might turn up. And it will seem like whatever turns up doesn't carry with it any heaviness anymore. What it carries with it is curiosity and discovery. What it carries with it is finding out. No conclusion, just more to find out. You'll find out that there's more to find out. And you'll be really happy about that. You'll be really happy about the continuing discovery that there is down that left-hand path of accepting whatever turns up, whatever might come along. There will be curiosity and excitement, positive excitement about that. And sometimes that excitement might become almost anxiety, but you'll recognize that the sensations for anxiety and excitement are pretty much the same sensations. And because you're on the left-hand path and you're down that discovery path, it will be much more likely to be excitement than anything else. Excitement about curious, about discovering, about accepting, about relaxing into surrender, a welcome, warm, inviting surrender for whatever turns up because of what you can discover in that beautiful discovery. And just coming back to watching the breath come in and out. And as it goes out, recognize, feel, imagine that every out-breath is taking any stress and anxiety that the body was experiencing, it's being breathed out. And that what you're breathing in is relaxation and calmness and peace, equanimity, acceptance, surrender. You breathe that in and you breathe out any stress, any tightness. Every out-breath is releasing that from the body, taking it out, taking it away, releasing it from the mind, taking it out, taking it away, and incoming peace and tranquility, peace and tranquility. Just feeling the breath in and out of the nostrils. just extending the in-breath to become bigger than the out-breath. And coming back up. And recognizing how you feel, just opening your eyes. Feeling what you feel in your face. You feel the weight of my cheekbones. Mm. I wanted to ask you before, but it didn't happen, that let's say you were to dumb down your resume and you were to get a job at Coles stacking shelves. Do you think there's any way that you could be not just accepting of that, but rather really enjoying the fact that you can be there being useful and feeling like fulfilled in just being in touch with every experience that happens for you? Is that possible?
I think there's a possibility there for sure. Might be a bit too far of a leap to say I would be fulfilled, but I've often thought that, yeah, I wouldn't mind stacking shelves or, getting people's groceries.
Mm. But if I said fulfilled in the actual experiencing of the physical movement of doing what you're doing, not in the story about what it's worth or where it sits in some hierarchy of success or otherwise, but just the mere fact that there you are physically moving, feeling useful, getting paid for it, that kind of thing, totally absorbed in the current moment rather than having thoughts about what else could be happening. Is that a possibility?
It's a possibility.
Okay, yeah. So I'd like you to see you with that notebook beside your bed, and if you wake up, jot down the first thing that comes to mind, just as a trigger for what you might remember in the morning.
Yeah, I'll do that.
And be open to the thing with that. I mean, it's stupid to call it magic, but but I don't know of a better way to put it. The possibility of that, the magic of what you just happened for you, it's very real, and rather than gloss over it, I would really want you to notice moments, and they might be seconds long, or they might be minutes long, or they might be hours long. Who knows? They might even go longer, but moments of feeling a sense of hope. If that occurs to you, write that down as well. Just write down hope and the time of the day, and even the day, just as a matter of interest to see if that happens, and that you've just been passing over it so fast that you didn't notice it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Boy, I feel a lot more relaxed after that. That feels pretty good here. Gee, I haven't done that for a long time.
You should do it more often, Vince. Your voice is so lovely.
Well, it affects me too. Yeah. Oh, I did that all day, every day for about 5 years. It was good. Yeah. And I saw lots of magical stuff come out of it. Absolutely amazing how some of the effects that happened. It appears from that, but of course it's not just from that. That's crazy to think that, but it's has to do with people's readiness and willingness for change and all sorts of things. Yeah, but it is good. Rum is, I have to say, you are a puzzle for me. I I I constantly don't know where you are, what's going on for you. You know what? One minute I think, boy, this guy's awake. He knows what's going on. You know, and then the next minute I go, oh God, he's saying he feels shit and that it's okay. You know, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, I don't know, and there is a curiosity. I'd love to know, but I can live with not knowing as well. But yeah, yeah.
I have no idea.
I knew you'd say that. Yeah, yeah, that's good too. Yeah. Yeah. Mm. So if I asked you what what is your daily experience? Oh, well, that's stupid. On an average, that's stupid too. Predominantly, uh, during, well, let's say today, let's say so far today, would you say you've felt mostly good or mostly not good or somewhere in between or something you've not been aware of, or how would you describe your experience so far today since you woke up this morning?
I feel like um, there is this sense of tracking the contraction in the body, but if that's not there, it's okay. Um, the last week was very intense physically. It's the most intense I have experienced so far. There was a lot.
Is that intensity good intensity or bad intensity or something else, just intense?
It was bad intensity. It
Yeah,
was
okay.
very uncomfortable physically, and there was a lot of crying. I even tried to feel the anger. It was intense. I felt like my whole body just vibrating, and I feel like it's not the same intensity. It's less, there is a sense of quietness, like regardless of the contraction. There's thoughts about like wanting to get rid of it or wanting to fix it is happening.
So what's different between last week and this week? Can you recognize a point where last week's intensity changed into what has happened this week?
There's no exact moment. Maybe, I don't know if it's conceptual, but this sense of whatever I'm seeing is not, or whatever I'm experiencing is not me, is not knowing. Even the me who's experiencing this is just part of the experience.
There's no fighting it when it happens. It's
No, sometimes there's fighting happening. So it's hard to explain. I've been experimenting with this um, play with imagination, like pretending to be someone else, and it's kind of fun, but also um, it feels natural. It's something that I've always done even without knowing it. Like imagining what it feels like to have somebody else's face or body or
well, it's very powerful stuff, that. Very powerful, yeah.
yeah, and it's
You're asking yourself to step outside of the normal, outside of conditioning. It's an active invitation to imagine newness, differentness. Yeah.
and it's also it's not something new actually. It's something I always know, but it's like a shift of perspective.
Mm.
Like right now I have a model in my head about what Vince is like. It's already there. I just shifted to have it here instead of there.
Yep. Yeah. That reminds me, I just in the last 24 hours, somebody asked me a question. I don't even remember who now. Somebody asked me a question that I went, oh God, I don't know the answer to that. And my response was, tell me what Vince would say to you about that. And it was like I actively asked that person to pretend to be me to see what came out, because they know the answer when I don't know the answer. Yeah. So it's a way of accessing stuff that you aren't normally able to access. It is a brilliant one. Yeah.
It's like also in dreams, like in the dream it's like you are making up all these characters, and even in the dream there is no fixed characters. Like characters can morph into each other, and sometimes it's first person, and sometimes it's third person, and it's fluid. Like the point of perspective, it just moves, and it's like it's all me. It's just all me, and it's just there's a fixation of a point of preference.
Yep. And that happens all day, every day to everybody. They're constantly shifting their perspective on things. It makes it simplistic to say, oh, we just shift our focus, but we're not. We're actually experimenting with things, looking at it from different perspectives. Yeah. And it really intriguing to think that at no point is there any fixed anything. It's always a discovery about what's possible or what could happen. So you recognize that aspect of you, but then the how can I put it? The word contradiction comes to mind, that when we don't do that, we do the opposite, and we keep ourselves in one perspective all the time, whatever that might.
Yeah, it is like it's habitual. It's like
Yes.
it's like I have wear this jacket so long that I've got used to it. It's
Yeah. And the jacket I keep seeing as a perfect metaphor for a self. This jacket that we put on every morning when we wake up is, the jacket of Vince or Ramiz or whatever. We wear it like a coat, like an overcoat or a raincoat or something. Yeah. Not that we have any choice about putting it on or not putting it on or putting on a different one. Those things just happen too. But yeah.
what also like interesting about this experiment is just the type of people that I can pretend to be, and what type of people I can't. Like there's something interesting. Like I can click. Like I can like the personality of someone or the look of someone can fit exactly like my jacket, but some people don't, and I find that intriguing.
Right. No,
Find it difficult. Like
yeah. Is it too small a jacket to fit on, or too stiff or too rigid or something?
I don't know. I find it takes more effort to have that, to be that person. Sometimes it's just like very simple, like facial expressions or way of talking.
Have you seen a trend in the kind of person that you prefer to do that with or prefer not to do that with? Have you noticed that there's reluctance with some and attraction with others?
I don't know. It's not also about um, attraction. Like even if I have an issue with someone, if like the relation is strong in the negative sense, it's actually much easier to embody them.
Okay. Whoa, yeah, that's a big one. What do you what do you think's going on there?
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it it I imagine it takes some some courage or some I don't know something to acknowledge that yeah there's a bigger attraction with some negative. That's what.
Yeah, it's like how I see a person is already in me kind of thing. Like
Oh
it's
yeah.
already part
Well,
of me, and it's just because I have a strong reaction maybe to the person. I know it more. Like I like I'm more familiar with how this person feels.
mm, mm. Yeah, I see that as potentially really positive. I don't know if it is or not, but yeah, it seems like there's a reality that we need to be able to accept that the worst person in the world that we can imagine or could ever have been, like Hitler or something like that, that we have the capability to be like that, every one of us. Obviously,
I
it's
see it like in order to have a reaction to something, I must have a model in my head about how it should be or how it feels like.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
like I need to make a model to have a reaction to.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, whatever we imagine in somebody else must be part of our experience, or we couldn't imagine it. Yeah, so even if it's our experience in fantasy, it's still part of our experience. Yes, but there's not solely a focus on that, is there? There's also the focus on the other side. I meant that as a question rather than a statement.
I I don't understand.
So as well as being more easily able to imagine putting on the coat of somebody you have an issue with or somebody that you feels like not so good, there is also the experience of putting on the coat of somebody you feel is got some positive aspects for you.
Yeah, it's and sometimes it feels scary, that level of closeness. Like
So the good one is scary more than the bad one.
it feels like it. I'm not sure.
Hmm. That might be just something to watch as you go forward, but that would seem to me to be a really big one to notice.
sometimes looking up, not with my eyes, but with the head, feels, has like a unique feeling. It's, I don't know if anyone can relate to it. It just, it feels like opening a can of soda and the energy just flow up.
Say that again. Opening a can of soda, then just what?
The energy just
Oh, that as the
flow.
yeah, what was trapped in the can starts to come out as bubbles or fizz or
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. How do you feel about that? Is that exciting or is that fearful or what is it? What's your response to that?
It feels kind of love.
Yeah, okay. I like that. Yeah. So that kind of stuff that's been bottled up in you, that love has been trapped in the can of rum is.
Yeah, sometimes just simple movement of the body have huge effect.
Mm. Hmm. Yeah, that can be like taking the pop top off sometimes. They're just a movement. Just a, yeah.
And sometimes I also feel um, a sense of being exposed, like suddenly for no reason, this energy of um, shame or the impulse to hide for no reason, just
Mm.
randomly. And I've noticed that usually when this happens, I try to distract myself, like try to unsee it. But lately, I'm just curious about it. Like,
Okay, great, great. Yeah.
um, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, so before it was I shouldn't say fearful enough, but it was unpleasant enough to want to distract from it. But now although it may still be not pleasant, there is something has shifted where that curiosity becomes bigger than the need to distract.
I think it's also about that I'm being able to catch it actually. Like, I don't think I was able to catch it
Okay.
before.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. So that wouldn't be different though, would it? I mean, you're able to catch it now because you're you're uh, you're not needing to distract from it. Whereas before, when you needed to distract from it, that would also make it much more difficult to catch because that distraction happens almost unconsciously so quickly that you don't even realize you're doing it most of the time. That's how it's successful in distracting you from it. It just happens and It's not like there appears to be an alternative, I will or I won't. It just happens.
Yeah.
You know, Kenneth, I normally would never ask you how you're going simply because I always assume that you're going well. Um, but you tell me if that's ever not true, or if you ever want to bring up something, you just jump in and bring it up, eh? I won't chase you for anything because when I do,
I
I'm going to say everything's okay anyway, aren't you?
I actually am not doing good.
Oh, you're not.
Uh yeah.
Okay.
Uh 3 days ago I started koans. I was watching a video on by Angelo about Mu, what is Mu, and I was like fully dedicated to it, and I was like I'm gonna stop everything and just do koans the entire day. And I was like, I went to the park and I sat down under like a rock, like on a rock, and I was like, what is Mu? And meditating, and like fully immersed, and I felt like I was suffocating almost because I wasn't doing the breathing properly, but I couldn't care about that, and I just kept going, and it was very one pointed, and it was like uh surrendering, but I don't know what that is, but uh I let everything take over and sort of gave up any distractions that came up. Maybe I should eat some pizza or do anything distracting. I would always run back to the park and do the meditating like immediately. Uh, and one night at like 2 a.m. I was like under a tree and a raccoon came and bit me. And I went to the ER to get like a rabies shot. and the skin wasn't broken, so it was fine. But when I was in the ER, like something has ch changed. Like it's like some parts of me was not there. Like when I was walking, I wasn't walking the same usual way. I wasn't talking to people the same usual way. I wasn't very I guess concerned about what other people thought about me at all. Uh, and there was a constant, like whenever I'm self-reflecting or like using memory or using perceptive thoughts, like, okay, this is this, or I'm calling something a tree, like those are let go of, and immediately there's this coming back to like this, what is happening now. Uh, and each Sunday, on the day we had that meeting, I joined for a few moments. That day, earlier that day, I was watching another video, and the specific words I heard were, notice when your mind is holding a view, every time your mind is holding a view. And that really resonated, and immediately I was catching all the views that were happening, and sort of like the the images or like what I see sort of morphed and the colors changed, and yeah, I was like immediately very blissful. It's an experience, and yeah, like very different from anything that else that has happened. And I was immediately like, I went to the park, and the trees were different, the grass was different, and it was not the concept of no self. It felt like there was nothing here, something like that. It's it's no self does not, like the conceptual understanding I had was different from this. Like I didn't feel like I was reciting self-inquiry stuff into me. It was none of that. It was like a feeling thing. And I came home that day, and I joined the meeting, and halfway through I felt like I was grasping and clinging again to the experience and everything. And it was very disorienting the next day. Uh, Very disorienting. I don't know what was happening. I couldn't find a ground, but I'm not sure if that is what's happening either. Like I couldn't find a concept to cling to call what happened, and there was nothing to call that. And yeah, I just don't know. There was a lot of doubt that came up, and there's still a lot of doubt. And yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm not, I guess I'm trying to find some sort of map, but that's just bullshit. Uh some sort of framework, but yeah, I know I can't get that. But there's this perceived lack. There's something to get, something's wrong right now.
So from what you say, tell me if I'm right about this. It seems like you had an experience of whatever you want to call it, an experience of oneness, a really beautiful, blissful experience that you lost, and now you're immersed in having lost it, and almost
Yeah,
like that stimulated the opposite to come up. Yeah, is that
yeah,
right? Yeah.
that would be great.
Mm. Okay. So from where I imagined you were before, obviously that's my imagination, but from where I
Mm.
imagined you were, if you were there, I would be really surprised that you would even be watching videos and looking for something else. So that would suggest to me that there was still seeking happening. You were
Mm.
still looking for something you felt missing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, of course, that's their big time because of the doubts and the negativity that's come up from the contrast between that period of blissful, wonderful acceptance and just
Mm.
the connection with everything that was there for a moment, and now we're back to this mundane, horrible. Yeah, got to find something again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. So the first thing that comes to mind for me is that you're very lucky that this has happened, and that blissfulness that you were experiencing obviously was missing a foundation, and what you're experiencing now is the corruption of that foundation.
Mm.
That's very conceptual what I just said, but yeah. So it's like when you were in that blissful state, you could very easily imagine that, oh, this is it. I've found it. No worries. Yeah, and then you start to worry about losing it. And that's the beginning of the thin edge of the wedge with doubt. You know, what if I lose it? Oh, and then yeah, yeah. Um, which tells you that it it's not it. You know what? That was just an experience. No, I'm not meaning to put it down or denigrate it. It is a beautiful experience. There's no doubt about that. It is just absolute sheer, undescribable beauty for sure. Yeah. Um, that's not only not any. It's very, you're not going to live in that place all the time where that is anyway, regardless when you've got it. It will be always accessible to you, but it won't be, it's not appropriate to be permanently in that state unless you go up into the Himalayas and find a cave to sit in. Then you could stay in that state all the time. But in real life, or what we call real life, in unreal life, we we can't be there all the time, right? But what it shows you is a possibility. This is a brilliant and amazing thing. It shows you not only a possibility, but it shows you that everything required for access to that state you have. Otherwise, you would never have experienced it, right? But as long as you don't get hooked up in this thing of how do I get it back? I've got to get it back, which of course is taking you in exactly the opposite direction of getting it back. Yeah.
Mm.
So this state that you're in now is not a state to be fixed. It's a state to be enjoyed. It's a state to be curious about. It's a state to relish as
Mm.
showing you something more, right? It's
Yeah.
it's like the discovery of a skin cancer and you can do something about it. Whereas if you never knew about it, it could develop into something life-threatening even. That's a shitty metaphor, but you know what I mean. Yeah.
Mm.
Um so so r- definitely, I mean, I can imagine very easily that we just want to fix this. We just want it to go away and we want to get back to that other place. Yeah.
Mm.
um, you are not going to fix it, right? Because what it is doubt, right? And doubt can't be fixed by the mind. Definitely not. Doubt is this kind of doubt is an emotional state. It's a body state. And
Mm.
so no matter what you think about it, no matter what rabbit hole you chase the mind down, you're not going to get out of this state. The only way out of this state is accepting it to the point where the body can be relaxed again. And so it's that, again, that's not something you can do. How do you do that? How do you do not doing? That's the best koan I've reckoned that anybody can get into. Now, don't worry about moo. Right, try that one. How do you do not doing? Because any kind of doing is down the wrong path. So not doing isn't something you can do. Not doing is just something you can discover. It's there, it exists, not doing, but it's very, very tenuous, it's very easy to kind of fall off that not doing thing. So it's an experiment again. It's a discovery. Again, curiosity about that. So this stuff that you have is your friend. It is looking after you. It is trying to help you. It is showing you. But it's you, of course, doing that to yourself, so that's, even though there's no you, it's you know what I mean, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be friends with it. That's the trick. That's the skill. Yeah, but again, it's like, again, so we can sow the seed of that. We can't do it. We can't force the seed to sprout. All we can do is put it in the ground and water it and wait. So that's what we need to do with this. We need to water it by being friendly with it, and it might grow. It might sprout, or it might not, but it most likely will. Yeah, if you love it and accept it and embrace it and look for what it's trying to show you. Crazy stuff, Doubt. Totally crazy stuff. It's like it's self-created. And then it becomes self-creating. It's like a circular thing. So we have doubt about doubt. That's that's just absolutely amazing. Yeah. So, like, I can't give you any advice. I don't know.
Yeah.
Can't go down that road really, but yeah, just love it. Just love it and embrace it and be warm and friendly towards it. And it will reveal stuff to you. Right? But remember where you are, this is where all the action is, where all the juice is, where the only reality is now, this. Yeah. And if in this now, there are stories about how it should be different, that's just going to corrupt the next moment. So you don't try and not do that. You just recognize that that's the way it is. Yeah. So total acceptance of this at a body level, not mentally, at a body level, that do yoga. Yoga's great, like that's total body awareness when you do it slowly though. Never, it's not an exercise. You do it slowly to experience stretching and flexibility, which is a great metaphor for our mind. Flexibility and awareness. And as you do that, do salute the sun. It's just so simple, so basic, yet it encompasses pretty much everything. And that gives you a way of sinking into, allow when you just do the forward bend, just don't push anything. Just let it relax and just watch from when you start the asana and do the first relax down towards your toes. And then when you finish the asana and doing it again for the last time, or almost the last time, notice how much difference there is. It'll be huge. There'll be 6 inches difference in where you reach just because you've done that and you've not pushed anything. You've just relaxed into it. Yeah. It's great. Yeah. So acceptance, my friend, just beautiful acceptance.
I see.
Yeah. And see what. So I will start asking you how you are from now on. I want to know the difference. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, it's time for me to go back to unreal life. It's pretty close to tea time here. I guess you're you get an hour more daylight than I get, Fiona, down on the Murray. Yeah. It's yeah. I kind of don't know how I feel about today's meeting, but I do feel good. Yeah. It's it was a little different to normal, but yeah, good stuff. All right. So I'll see you all next time, guys. Okay.
Video.